I can't read from the. uh, costs are gonna get captured and, charged to Pfizer. And then we also have actual fine. So we have a new enforcement response plan, and that, within that, so this is gonna be, we don't know yet, but it's at least an NOV. It's also a notice to correct, because they've obviously got spill containment issues that need to be corrected. And so those are two things that are gonna happen. And then, we do have the ability to assess fine, just monetary fines. So we'll be, working through that probably over the next month as we continue to get data back and kind of figure things out.
And during the conversations, it came up that she was married to Mark Elliott, who was the.
I was hoping Michigan was gonna start their 11-game run.
11-game win streak.
11-game win streak to win the national championship.
We went from 20 to 20 to 33 to 22 at half.
So
And you see Juwan standing up there going, take the last shot, in the last 15 seconds. It's like, that's all you have for them.
so we're so bad that the Big Ten Network didn't play their game last night.
Libby, did you get the text?
I don't
It was on
Peter will not be here.
was looking
I
for it, I
saw
was
it,
like,
yes, and so I let Mark know.
Yeah, I did too, so
some
we're all good.
historical retrospective
make sure we're on
of
the same page.
some
Yeah, I'll get, hey,
wrestling
Libby,
kid. BTN rather than play that game.
Remember, the former commissioner of the Big Ten, who went into
Okay.
the,
Oh my gosh, just like my mom.
the office for the Chicago Bears. He's the one that sold out on the stuff on Peacock and things like that. And it was, football. So the opening 2 rounds of both the women's tournament and the men's tournament were held on Peacock. The 11 through 14 play games. And then the rest is Big Ten tournament for the rest of the week.
Oh, so the games today are on Peacock then?
No, today they're on Big Ten Network to finish out the tournament. So
Kenji,
so it's just that first 2 games.
I'm hearing them in the Zoom now,
Yeah.
but I don't know what we're going to get.
Football game this year.
See if I turn the speakers on for in the house.
Well, so MSU had a 5 o'clock
I
kickoff
get that.
because it was on Peacock or something like that. It's like, yeah, great.
Morning, Mark.
We're going to a hockey game Saturday night. MSU has Ohio State, and Michigan has to go to Minnesota. Single elimination for the Big Ten tournament.
Big Ten, and then it goes to
The following weekend, unfortunately, we'll be already gone for spring break. The championship game would be Michigan State for the 3rd time of the year at
So,
this time of the Inlays in Detroit.
yeah, because I think that's what's happening is I'm just feeding it back into the house. So Steve, can you hear us online?
Are you gonna wow us with some financial stuff today, Mr. Elliott?
excuse me?
I said, are you gonna wow us
I owe
with some
you a
financial
response.
stuff as you sit in for Mr. Hefner?
Not,
You sent me an email
I just
asking
found out
about
as I was
the-
walking in that.
That you're up,
Yeah,
have a seat at the
get
table?
on my recently, so. Nope.
I thought I was up in Lansing yesterday. I sort of put it off because I thought I'd have time yesterday to respond, but I was at the Capitol and I couldn't look on the speakers on the internet to connect in.
So many people.
I really don't know. I mean, it's just,
We have a quorum, but they're all.
So try to get in and scroll, finally there's the
Where's it
go,
go?
and then popped out.
Is the planning committee meeting now, or did I get that?
That was yesterday.
This is UPC.
Yeah, yeah, I understand that it is, but
You're welcome to join us.
well, I don't, no,
Sorry.
I didn't,
You're welcome to stay,
yeah.
and I can get with you separately on the planning.
Thanks, James.
So my wife was reading me the article that you guys are going back to supervisor form.
Oh, okay.
In a box yet or
Yeah,
superintendent?
Okay,
To her.
got it.
One part is
Because
all it is?
the way she
Jim?
read it.
James?
the way I
Yeah.
heard,
Can you turn,
The smart
I'll tell you, Oh, you're in the meeting.
Yeah, I just popped in, but I got my,
She read it, the supervisor,
volume.
I'm like, they can't.
Can
call
you
it a
turn your
supervisor,
volume
it's a
off?
boss position,
Yeah.
So it's a
see if,
superintendent.
And see if we can hear people that might
Okay.
be in the,
And there are
because we won't be
legal
feeding it back into the
distinctions in state
house.
law between the superintendent and the manager.
It's Texas is superintendent.
okay, my volume is, all the way up. Let me see if I'm muted.
Room up here.
Not muted.
Oh. Maybe the top.
So if somebody in the Zoom is speaking,
Can, somebody hear me? Mr. Fasenzi, can you, hear my audio?
Good.
You can't hear him back.
he's talking, but we can't hear him. That's the problem.
Yeah, I wonder if that's a Zoom thing,
On today.
cause it's now, on my computer not working.
I can't hear you.
Oh, hold on. Steve, can you, hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, James. Can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you.
Okay, turn your microphone off,
There's a feedback going on.
though. Yep,
So I'm on mute?
turn your microphone off.
Okay.
It's just showing up.
I'm gonna go ahead and start.
So that's my speaker. I didn't turn
Is your
that.
mic off? No. Oh, yep, it is.
So
Okay.
that's off, but, so could they hear me through the house if I talk?
No, yeah.
Okay.
So anybody online, can you hear me, Kenji? So we are having, so you're gonna need to mute that while we're talking,
I'm muted.
or turn your speakers off. I'm sorry.
Okay.
So we're having audio difficulties. You can hear us, but we can't hear you on the Zoom. So, that's gonna be a little bit of a difficulty this morning. We made some changes in the room and we unfortunately didn't test this setup, when we were doing the final checks, so, James has a laptop here, so if somebody needs to speak, they need to raise their hand. Libya let them speak. Everybody in the room has to be as quiet as possible. James can unmute his laptop and we can hear him talk. It's not the ideal, it's gonna be really bad, but that's the way we're gonna have to have anybody talk through the Zoom this morning, unfortunately.
Is there a chat function too that?
There is a chat function, so,
Oh, the-
no, actually, I believe we turned the chat function off on our Zooms, I'm sorry.
If they had a question, they could type it in. but-
So it's gonna be a bit difficult, I'm sorry, but this is what we have for this meeting.
Was the mayor coming?
No, he's gonna be absent this morning.
Good morning, welcome. There is a sign-in sheet, please, if you haven't signed in, please sign in, you can pass it around, please, and capture everyone who's present. Call the meeting to order for the Utility Policy Committee, March 14th, 2024. First item is to set the agenda.
I'll move this on the agenda.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next item is introduction and guests. Mark Elliott, welcome,
Thank you.
alternate.
Morning.
Morning, Jim. We'll go around and say our names. We have a few new people in the audience.
John Crum?
Jim Escamilla. Jeff Chamberlain with the city of Kalamazoo.
Tom Lees.
Libby Heine Cogswell.
James Baker, staff member, City Kalamazoo, Public Services Director and City Engineer.
Tim Hudson, I'm with the Regional Commission.
Jerry Andrews, Charleston Township. Diana Langshaw, Ross Township.
Christina Hutchings, Ross Township.
I'm Mukalaya Purve. I'm a wildlife fellow with the city of Kalamazoo.
Thank you.
Anna Crandall, City of Kalamazoo.
Next, item 4 is acceptance of the February 8th, 2024 draft minutes. Any changes or corrections?
I'll make the motion to accept the draft minutes as presented.
Second.
There's a motion by John Crum, second by Mark Elliott to accept the February 8th minutes. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Any public comment this morning? Next is unfinished business and utility financial policy.
We did not get a chance to meet this last month, so I do not have any more update on this one. We should have an update in April.
Okay. Is, would it be helpful to set a date for the subcommittee? To get that on a calendar?
Yeah, we're going to see Peter today,
Yes.
so
Okay.
he's one of the key ones in there. And what we were digging into was, what are some of the specific questions of the policy?
Okay. And he's under the weather this morning, so he's gonna be virtual this morning and also this afternoon.
Okay, well, we'll be sure to touch base with him then.
The next item is the rate consultant contract renewal. And James, I believe you said you had an update on that.
Yes, I do. So I've reached out to the rate consultant to obtain a updated proposal. And I expect to have that probably by next Wednesday, is the schedule. Some specific things that I've asked for within that was for some additional time on reconciliation between the accounts that we put in, so like the new budget that we'll be loading in. This will actually be the 23 budget that we load into the rates. It'll be the year-end budget. We've also asked for some additional time for water affordability. We've asked for some additional time to work with Peter Hafner and to share work product with Peter Hafner. And then we've also asked for some additional time to go into some details within some of the levels, the cost of service study items, specifically fire service, hydrants, that sort of thing. If you remember back to the cost of service study, there were some gaps in fire service and hydrants. So we've got to do some more work there to kind of properly account for everything on the private hydrant side of it. So there's going to be some more deeper dives, if you will, in that. So it's once I get that proposal, it would be my plan to reach out to the subcommittee members and schedule time with the subcommittee members to review and provide comment on that. And I believe the subcommittee members are Jeff and Steve and Peter.
So it's
Yeah.
the same.
Yep. Okay.
Thank you. Anything else from anyone?
So James, just one thing. So we just to be clear, we appear to be on the path to continue with Stantec, appearing though that everything is satisfactory. Is that?
Correct. And we want to make sure we get the subcommittee's members some time to review that proposal, and if there's, more time needed in water affordability or more time needed in, one of those areas, that'll give the folks on the subcommittees, time to kind of dive into that and ask questions. We wanna make sure that when we engage with Stantec this year, that the work Stantec does is reflective of, the intent and guidance that the UPC has for that work.
Sounds good. Capital improvements, the neighborhood policy, again, I think that's scheduled for May, and then ordinance implementation at the city in the fall, late fall.
The ordinance implementation would likely occur with rates, so that would kind of occur through that fall schedule, but then be implemented, January 1st.
Okay.
And that timing, as far as I understand, works because there are no neighborhoods who have requested anything other than the one on ML Avenue that is still is relying on the capital improvement. So that's a few years down the road.
Since you mentioned a capital project, Oshtemo has water going in across the street. Water major extension. The affordability program. I think we talked about periodic updates on that, and maybe next month I'll look at some of these unfinished business items and we can group them in a way that they're only on the agenda periodically.
Okay. I can provide some updates on where we're at today and affordability if the board wants to hear that. We do have now 111 families enrolled within our CAA Payment Arrears Assistance Program. We also have 27 additional families that are pending, so they're in the process of applying. There was a small number, I believe, something like 16 families did apply, but were ineligible due to income. Their income is higher than what that program allows. That program is based on 200% of federal poverty. And so for a family of four, that's about $60,000 a year family income. If your household is smaller, that number is gonna be smaller. If your household's bigger, that number is gonna be bigger. So it is a little difficult to give, just a broad number that applies to everybody. Every family's different. Again, we always encourage families to apply for that. We are getting ready to do our first shutdown area, which is Parchment, and crews will be going out to doing that here shortly. So they've been kind of getting things around and working out for that. We're also reviewing accounts and reviewing usage with customers. We're doing some reconciliation and investigation on if there's errant readings, we're gonna call them, something that where we've got a family that's trended something 40 to 60 meters per quarter, and all of a sudden we see that they're at 4,000 meters and they have a $10,000 water bill. We're gonna investigate that to see, is there a problem with the meter? Is there an actual leak, or was there a leak that was corrected? We do have a leak policy that allows us to correct the reading to, the previous average, or what we have on record for the account. And then usually we require that there's proof that a plumber went in and corrected the leak. We don't want that to perpetuate and continue to happen. We're also seeing that there are some meter reads that went just absolutely bonkers with, some addresses. So we're looking through to correct that. We don't wanna go out and shut somebody off because they had some sort of bad meter read or some leak that was since repaired. So we wanna focus on that as well. So that's my update, and we're gonna continue with, well, one more point on our numbers. There are families that have applied that are getting assistance, but they didn't fill out or didn't properly fill out what the water service, provider is. You know, so like, say like us in Portage, and they're like on the line between, so the zip code might say Portage, but they might be in our district, so they might count as a Portage number, not a Kalamazoo number. So there's some of that, that could be some, so our numbers may increase in time once we get some of that information figured out. Thank you.
Sounds good. I think our estimates were 300 families or something, so you're,
Well, you know, the good news with the state program, is that there's really unlimited participation, so there's no funding limit. In fact, that group of families that are being helped right now, that 111 families, over $50,000 has been used to get those families out of, payment arrears. So the program is, unlimited in the number of families that can participate, and it's unlimited in the amount of funding that would go to those families. So it's really a great program.
any other questions? Okay, the next item E is the water services agreement review, and again, that's a checklist item that we'll get on some kind of a periodic schedule. I don't think there's anything on that today. High pressure areas, any update on that?
I don't have any updates. We haven't taken any action yet. I know Tom has been helping us out, working with, Texas Township. I believe there's a small number of homes that may have come forward. But I think we're still looking at the bigger area. There still remains some unknown. So I think that's something that, as we discussed, we're happy to step in and, provide some customer satisfaction, response. And we're, planning to continue to work with Texas, but at this time, we haven't moved forward with any action.
I have a question. So Jim, we put, booster pumps for fire protection, once we get, pushing 4 stories or so.
Mm-hmm.
Does the water pressure ever go down where we have buildings that don't? Well, if the pressure's gone down, we would require pumps that now, but they're not installed. I mean, do we ever know that?
That's, we haven't seen that challenge come up. A lot of the area that we're talking about in Texas Township was that pressures are too high. There's, the area in Texas has some kind of undulating terrain, and, overall the pressure in the system needs to, kind of be able to supply the furthest hydrant that's at the highest point with ample pressure for fire flow. And so
I'm on the low end side.
you're on the low pressure side of it? Okay. So are you over by where we installed station 40?
Well, no, we just, we're doing buildings and, just on the north side,
Okay.
4-story.
Oh, you're in the low pressure district, yep, yeah.
Okay, so, but does it ever go lower than that, is what I'm asking? We
So,
have buildings that might not have booster pumps now, but does the pressure ever?
well, no, we don't anticipate to ever lower the pressure. So like the low pressure district, we have a static pressure of about 70 PSI. Intermediate pressure district is probably our lowest pressure district. We have a static pressure of around 45 to 50 PSI. We don't have any plan to lower that pressure anymore. There's some areas in Richland that are 50, 55 PSI. As you build up vertically, that pressure is gonna lower. And, as your experience as a builder and architect and engineer, that, if you go up 10 stories, even if it was 70 PSI static, you may need to boost
Yeah, I
it.
know, it's right in that 3 to 4 story range that, I was just wondering, does it ever go below that after the project's been completed? That's really what I was wondering.
That's not our intent. There has been many pressure district changes in Oshtemo over the last probably 40-year period. So there has been changes in pressure, but there has been increases in fire flow, and all those changes still met fire flow requirements. So there's you know, as growth occurs and pressure districts move boundaries, that's always something that we look at. I'd say the best case history that we have for that is Oshtemo over the last 40-year period, as, you know, the system kind of moved west and then kind of caught up with itself from a reliability and redundancy standpoint. 40-some years ago, Oshtemo was essentially all on pumps. So if a pump failed, the water stopped. That's since been changed. We've got towers in place, and we've got a lot of water to support that. So that, you know, that hasn't been a concern, but that's something that we look at.
Can I, just a clarification, you talk about low pressure, high pressure, intermediate pressure. Those are all based on elevations, the pressure districts, right?
Correct,
So
yeah.
the low pressure is down in the valley. Doesn't mean that water in that section of the system has lower pressure than something in the high pressure system. It could be the same pressure.
Correct, yeah.
High
yeah.
pressure could be lower than the low pressure.
Yeah, there could be areas in East Side High that are lower pressure than areas in low.
So it's just those areas because they're lower, and then you gotta separate it from the areas that are up higher in elevation, separate it from areas that are up higher in elevation.
So I was based on the static pressure, you know, that's not what we based, or whether we have a booster pump or not. Does that static pressure ever go down in those neighborhoods?
Broadly, no, because that's controlled by the tower, but the tower does have a range in it. So there's what we call the overflow elevation of the tower. That's as much water as we can put in it. Then there's a minimum, which is, you know, something like 0% full or something like that. That tower could range throughout its cycle from overflow all the way down to its, you know, pump turn on elevation. So as you get into the details, say like low with a static of 70, you know, we could modulate between 65 to 70 PSI within that, but you're modulating within a small pressure window.
And you could also, if you're at the bottom, just before the pumps come on the hottest day of the year, have a fire in the neighborhood. Then those pressures are likely to go lower just because there's more demand. But that would be just a temporary.
Right, if there's a main break or a fire, there's something, there could be even a boil water scenario where the system drops below 20 PSI. If there's a big enough fire, if there's a big enough water.
That's an
break.
occasion, I was just wondering, you know.
Right.
Should,
Normal fluctuations will be
Yeah.
the elevation fluctuations in the tower.
Thank you. Item 7, new business, annual operations report. And that's what was handed out.
Yep. So John, did you not get one?
Is that, yeah.
It's 2 parts.
Thank you.
It's the word part.
Is that yours?
Yep.
I'm gonna pass one back. You just have one.
Oh, yeah, here, and then that's gonna cover to go with it. You can pass 2 back if you'd like. So these are kind of 2 separate reports. And,
I can pull it up online.
yeah. You gonna do a screen share?
Sure, yep.
Okay.
Yep. Just give me a minute here. Which one are you opening first?
You can open the asset management one first.
right one.
Perfect. Okay, just to kind of go through this, and we're gonna place these reports on the UPC website, so they're available for everybody in the future. They'll be available for, public as well, and then all of our partner communities, the regional commission, and everybody that's kind of a part of the water system. So the first report, asset management report, this is kind of a format type report that's required to the state of Michigan. And certainly we felt that this would be very beneficial for the UPC to have this information as well. The first paragraph just kind of describes asset management plan and why we do it, why we kind of function in the asset management plan role. That we talk about staffing levels, so all the detail of staffing as the staffing was maintained through 2023. We talk about inspections, maintenance activities, and corrective action during the year, so we've got some highlights of that stuff. I'll get into some more of that in the, we call annual director's report, that gets into some real fine details of kind of all the work that we do, including work orders. We've also got a summary of the studies that we've conducted specific to water system, well fields, things of that nature. Again, this is only 2023. We might have been completed studies in 2022 or 2021, but this report is focused on 23. We detail all expenditures within the distribution system for maintenance, and then also supply and treatment. So we've got all those costs in there as well. We're including capital with those costs, so you can see kind of where the capital expenditures occurred during 2023. Then we also summarize assets that were completed and put in the ground. Now, I will note that this is based on engineering, not finance. So I'll give an example. The 33rd Street water main is in the ground. There's 3 miles are complete. That is operational, but that project is still open on our books. It's not closed out yet. So from an engineering perspective, we're gonna say that project was completed in 2023. From a finance perspective, Mr. Ficenzi, who was on our team's call here, that's not gonna show up as complete until 2024. So when we look at numbers and Peter Hoffner says, well, they didn't complete that project yet. What he's saying is, in the books, it's not done yet. What I'm saying as an engineer, I can go show you where it is. And if you've driven on 33rd Street, you know what I'm talking about. And it's in the ground and it works and it's moving water. So I'm saying it's done. That difference in what is reality and happening out on the street and what finance sees on numbers on a screen or paper is different. And it will continue to be different. And that's also sometimes can speak to why we are halfway in one year and halfway in the other with CIP budgets as well. So we go on, show all the projects we do. We also highlight CIA projects. Those are projects that the townships are doing themselves or developers are doing themselves, and then that's kind of built and put into the system. So if you look at new main installed plus CIA, we're sitting at about 8.8 miles of new main going into the ground. That's a very impressive number. We haven't seen numbers like that since the major growth years of the 70s and 80s. So I think that's something that's really positive for the UPC to look at. From a system, we're making some very positive growth moves, so that's great news. We also summarize maintenance, again, going into kind of the O&M side of the house. And then, we've got just a few more notes on, futures and what do we look like going into next year. So we talk about the rate increase and how that's gonna help into next year, which is this year. So when we say this report next year, it's a 2023 report, we're talking about 2024, not 2025. That's the next year we're gonna talk about with rates. Switching gears here, talking about this report. This is getting into some more finer details, really kind of all the nuts and bolts of things that are going on in the water system. I'm just gonna thumb through it from a high level. One thing to note is like our total water produced, 7 billion gallons a year. I would note that, look at our growth from 2019 to 2023. We've increased our annual production by over 400 million gallons a year. That's not a small number. That indicates some system growth that is certainly occurring. So keep an eye on that. We break them down by all the different pressure districts, so you could spend some time with this and see, hey, where's that growth actually occurring? Which pressure district is seeing it the most? We got some bar charts that show you variance in production from a 10-year average. So we look at a 10-year rolling average, where is our current production and historic production trending at? And then if you look at this 20-year production or yearly production for previous 20 years, this chart right here. I spend a lot of time looking at this chart. I look at this chart every single month. This chart is one of the most important things in terms of corroborating data to tell you how important system reliability is. If you look at where that trend line is heading, it is kind of topping off, showing that we're pumping more in 2023 than we have over the past 20 years. Additionally, if you look at the past 20 years, when we had high pumpage occurring, it was at some specific peaks. There was a drought or there was a dry weather period that are spikes. If you look at 2023 in our progression to get there through 2022 and 2021, it is a slow, gentle rise, which means it's sustained use. It's customers, and customers need water. This is the biggest tall tale evidence that we have to say we really have to be focusing on system reliability. We have to be focusing on supply, station improvements. We have to be focusing on cast iron main replacements, and we've got to be focusing on transmission. And so we're doing those things. And that's great news that the capital program is heavily invested in system replacement costs and system reliability. The only deviation from that is lead service lines. Lead service line replacement doesn't help you on this chart, but as we know, lead service line replacement is a huge, important thing for us to do as a utility. Gonna keep flipping through the pages here.
Question on that is,
Yes, sir.
so you've seen sort of a gradual growth. You're able to, if we have one of those spikes this summer, you have the capacity to pump that?
That's certainly a concern. That's why we're Anna, our chief engineer, sitting in the back over there, is working with our supply group to make sure we've got a new pump at Station 25, a pump on the shelf for Station 5, and we're scrambling to try to get more pumps ordered. That's probably our biggest concern, is that at these big stations, we've got a battery of pumps, sometimes, 4 or more pumps, and to get a peak on top of that, we need everything to work. Station 24, for example, that's the big mother load station that produces for our west area. We've done some pump replacements there. We're, really focusing on pump replacements in other parts of our system. We still do have pumps from 1974 and older, and so we've got to make sure we're reliable on that. But that's something that kind of keeps us up at night to make sure that we can do it. One good point of good news, not to be all macabre here, is that when we flush annually, and we're getting ready to flush again, we run the system at full go. So that's a good test and confidence builder for our folks that work in water supply to say, yep, I've got the confidence. We took it all the way to 100%. It held. Had some concerns over here. Let's get that fixed. So that's also kind of why we have the schedule that we have. It gives us time to get after maintenance items in the winter. Also gives us a quick check-in in the spring before we hit that high summer drought period. So if we identify anything during spring flushing, we're gonna really wanna get that addressed so that we can get that fixed before we hit the summer. Chemical use comparison, that's another thing. I'm gonna turn over now and spend some time on customer complaints. So we do track that. And this is something that we spend a lot of time and focus on. When we look at departmental goals, we've got kind of, some main goals, including system reliability, water quality, and customer satisfaction. It's kind of our top three goals within public services: water quality, system reliability, customer satisfaction. When we look at customer complaints, that's an opportunity for us to improve our customer relationships, but it's also telling us that we've got some improvement to do on water quality. But if you look at, we were trending down quite nicely until we hit 2023, and then we pretty much doubled our annual statistics. So I'm gonna spend some time in talking about that. One of the projects that we did in 2023 was we shut down Station 11. That's a iron treatment station that provided water to both the Northwest High and the High. With that station shut down, Northwest High did not receive any iron removal, and High did not receive any iron removal. High is our highest iron district. So we have some of our highest iron wells at Station 9. Station 9 had to run to take up the load from Station 11, and as a result, we produced and pumped into the system probably more iron than we ever had in a few decades. Station 11 is now all rebuilt. It's got all new sand filters. It is back online, and it's gonna be, removing iron. So the good news, although there was that big spike in customer complaints, the goal for 2024 is that we get down into the 300 customer complaints per year. We also have a pretty aggressive auto flusher program that's gonna be your next page. We put auto flushers out into the system to help with water quality complaints. You can see that we've continued to increase the number of auto flushers that are in service and the amount of flow that's going through them. Flipping here, don't lose my space. So that's something we put the auto flushers out every year between flushing. So we pull them in fall flushing, and then we put them back out in spring flushing. So we've got, again, SCADA data, statistics on, water distribution system, leaks, repairs, valve work, meter change out, tighter work, arch taps, frozen services. 2023 was a great year for frozen services. We had 0. So, hey, finally, there is some good news for not having winters. Lead service line replacement, we have a annual goal of 500 lead service lines per year. We really like to accelerate that, kind of a departmental goal of 800 lead service lines per year. We only achieved 363 lead service line replacements in 2023, but I will note that we awarded by contract over 1,080 lead service line replacements. So there's a lag there. We are experiencing some supply chain challenges in obtaining the brass fittings and the materials that kind of go into, making that service. Some of those parts and pieces that I brought in and showed everybody in previous meetings, those things are hard to come by and take some tremendous lead time. So the good news in that we did award that contract, we've got additional contracts that we are awarding, is that you'll see this number kind of take off like a bell curve. So we're at the lower end of the bell curve right now, and then that number is gonna take right off, and we expect to have over our goal in 2024, and then, continue to award some projects on the back half of it. Boil water advisories, and then, of course, all the lab data is all summarized there as well, including, number of filters we provide and requests for filters from 301. There's a tremendous amount of sampling that we're doing. I would, note in 2023, we are completing nearly 16,000 samples a year of the water system. And that is a big number. And it's a number that was very different from where we were back in 2013 and 14, before there's been a major shift in level of service requirements for water systems, not only in the state of Michigan, but nationally. So we're in a different world today for regulatory standards in water systems. I think that's great news for the customer, that's great news for reliability, that's great news for safety, but it does come at a cost. And I think that's something to keep in mind when we're talking to folks, you know, talking to elected officials, and you hear about, you know, hey, man, it's 10 years ago, we weren't paying any of this. And you're right, and 10 years ago, we didn't have anything to do with the PFAS limitation. PFAS wasn't even, if I said PFAS 10 years ago, somebody sit next to me and say, oh, excuse you, James, what did you just say? We didn't know what it was. And 10 years ago, if you remember, we weren't talking about lead either. And, you know, I'm not gonna go into that, but reality today for water system is completely different from reality 10 years ago. And I'll leave it at that. Any questions?
James, Chair, I just want to kind of go back to your chart on the annual complaints. I think that is really important for us to keep watching and tracking, but a couple of things that kind of are pointed out to me is that, you know, we've been doing a lot of capital work
Yep.
the last couple of years.
Construction can impact that, yeah.
And as we see that construction work going on, we're starting to see more disruptions
Yes.
going on. And then as we see more disruptions going on, we then see more complaints.
Correct, yeah.
So I think that's we don't want complaints, but it's probably unavoidable with a lot of this. So part of the program is to make sure that the folks that are in the areas at least have some knowledge about what's going on.
Yeah.
I know we sometimes talk that, you know, we could get somebody 5 flyers, and then the day after the bulldozer shows up, the first call is, I don't know what's going on.
Right, no one ever told me about this project.
So it's just a continuous effort to try to do that. And then I think the other thing that goes with it is we at the city have tried to make it easier for people to contact the different departments, including the water division. So through specifically the institution of the 311 line or the 337-8000 outside the city, it just makes it a lot easier to, if you have a question or if you have a complaint, you can just call this one number. So we are seeing more contacts with the public that way too.
Yeah, and that's a positive thing. That is good to have those contacts and to have to where the public knows how to call and how to, you know, provide a complaint about, you know, their water.
So as we do more projects, and I think that's kind of the theme that I've been experiencing here, as we do more projects, we're gonna have more contacts with the public. And some of those will be positive and some of them will be a complaint. And again, I think it's something that we just keep educating the public on and keep pushing forward with the projects, obviously.
I'll add that I really appreciate this summary. I think it's a good overview on the operations. A couple thoughts, just one question. A few years ago, there were some auto flushers that I thought went in Oshtemo near H Avenue.
Yeah.
And I didn't see that in the report in terms of the summary. I don't know if that was a temporary.
They should be going back. I can check on it. There was a whole area, there was a whole area that we were doing specifically for, there was a neighborhood that was having some concerns. Usually with our auto flushers, once we have success with them, it becomes kind of an annual program. And I know that we keep buying more. One auto flusher is about $3,000, and we keep buying more every single year to put them out. And I know we just bought several more to get ready for this year as well. So I can check on that to see if those HAV flushers are gonna go back out.
And then I recall when we were talking about the affordability program last year that we talked about the effort with those families on conservation. And as you talk about the increase in demand for the water, is that conservation, is that something that might spread to a larger, I know I get those emails from consumers offering $1.
Yeah, you know, we do have, we do partner with Consumers Energy. We have the Helping Neighbors program where households can sign up for, you know, energy efficiency program items. And we'll provide low flow shower heads, low flow aerators, toilet test eye kits to kind of help families with their usage. Another big component of that is our smart meter program. Our smart meter program right now is through attrition, so any new customer is gonna be on the smart meter. Any meter change out work or anytime we go to a home to do maintenance on a meter, it's gonna be a smart meter. So we are installing meters. We've got probably about 7,500 smart meters out in the system now. We're also taking smart meters and combining them with other projects. So we've got about 120 homes in North Kalamazoo that received a grant for lead service line replacement. When that work gets done, they're also gonna, that same contractor is gonna install 120 smart meters in those homes as well. So those smart meters will help customers once we get you know, programs in place. We don't quite have it there yet, but there is a customer portal and there is an ability for, once we have, you know, kind of over the critical mass amount of smart meters in the system, that we'll have a program in place to where customers could get on their phone and see their usage in real time. They could get text alerts if their usage goes over a certain threshold, that they could say, hey, give me a text if you know, as a family, we've used more than 100 gallons in a day, and you can get a text for that. So there are ways, I think, to your point, conservation certainly has to be a part of kind of our overall strategy and plan. And there's gonna be some customers who are very interested in that. There's also gonna be some customers that say, hey, I wanna water my lawn, I wanna have 4 bathrooms, and I'm gonna do a lot of laundry every day, and those are my decisions. So we're, as a water utility, it's our goal to be able to supply and serve all customer types, and customers that wanna participate in that, and customers who choose not to.
So in the water affordability program, do you make it mandatory that they put in these water efficiency things?
Not at this time.
Do you think it would be a good idea?
It would help, but we don't have enough data yet to say if all of our folks that were facing shut off or have payment arrears were due to high usage. That would be something certainly to look at, but we don't have that data. Our data sets just are incomplete. We can't make that determination. Sometimes there's a challenge for income that is contributing to it. You know, so we are seeing customers that you know, have some challenges meeting their bill payment. They have very low bills. They're using like 20, 30 cubic meters per quarter, which is low. Our a typical conserved usage home, you know, this would be a home that is conserving their usage and not wasting water, would be in the neighborhood of 51.3 cubic meters per quarter. And a higher usage home would be closer to 70 cubic meters per quarter. And again, we're seeing homes that are 20, 30 cubic meters per quarter that are qualifying for the payment arrears assistance.
And then the last point I was gonna make is that the capital projects and that you talked about, and I know you were on the news recently with all the different work going on. I think it's an opportunity to recognize that the water services agreement is part of that. And, you know, the revenue and the joint, the partnership, it's good to see.
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, there's a tremendous amount of investment occurring in the core city. There's also a tremendous amount of investment that's occurring kind of out in the system. And when you look at it from an entire system, you know, there's really investment happening everywhere. And I think that's a very positive takeaway from the partnership and collaboration that kind of created the water services agreement and is helping to support and move all this infrastructure funding at a great time. I don't think, we'd be able to do that without the water services agreement in place, so it's certainly been beneficial.
Any other questions? Okay, then item B is the fiscal year 2025 I can't say it as fast as you, DWSRF project plan.
Yeah, thanks. I'll just give, a couple of, bullet points on that. We're moving ahead with design. That's proceeding pretty well. We had a technical meeting with Eagle to look at and determine if there was any special provisions that we needed within that project plan to allow for a future Richland service area, if that was determined by Richland, and allow for the city to still service Ross into the future. So that was a very positive meeting with Eagle. We learned a lot of stuff, so there's, nothing that would be too difficult in the design to allow Richland that autonomy that's in the water service agreement. So we think we can make that happen and, not impact our ability to serve Ross into the future. So that was a great meeting. Just kind of looking out on your calendars, the DWSRF project plan is due to Eagle June 1st, which means we're gonna have it to them before June 1st. And we're gonna have 2 public meetings in April. We haven't scheduled those yet. We're stay tuned. Those are gonna be scheduled here pretty quick. It's our intent to have 1 meeting out in the Richland-Ross area where both Richland and Ross residents can attend, and then a different meeting in a different area to talk about Station 145. So just to kind of bring everybody back up to speed, this project plan submittal is a big one. This is $80 million. We're looking at PFAS, water main extensions in Richland Township, in Ross Township. We're also looking at a big entire neighborhood lead service line replacement project in the core city. And we're also looking at a PFAS treatment and iron removal station in the city and combining 2 stations. So taking Station 14 and taking Station 5 and putting them together and creating Station 145. Not 145, it's 145. And then that will be a consolidated iron removal and complete PFAS treatment station. And then that will be a baseload station that will supply water to the intermediate pressure district, to the Parchment pressure district, to the east side high pressure district, and to the high pressure district.
Question on 145, so you're building that for PFAS. Are you seeing PFAS in the water, or do you see it coming?
So at Station 5, we have a known 201 site that's got PFAS levels that are in way off the charts in terms of regulatory standards. And we've been very careful with Station 5. We haven't received any detections with it, but we haven't really run it much. It does, we turn it on as a peaking station as needed. So Station 5 is just some more history. Was constructed in 1914. Anna's just completing a project right now to kind of perform some structural work on it because it's actually bricks. The building was actually kind of falling down.
James, where's Station 5?
Station 5 is located on East Michigan, just as you're leaving the city, right by Skipper's Lane. So it's kind of in Eastwood. It's right by the old Eastwood Tavern.
So right across the street from the old paper mill.
Paper mill, yeah, imagine that. Yeah, and I mean, that station needs replacement, and then we discovered PFAS. And if we're gonna baseload that station, we need, as a system, we need the confidence that we're gonna be able to baseload that station, put it into the system, and not exceed the PFAS criteria. So, from a groundwater modeling standpoint, it's likely that if we baseload that station, and baseload means we're running it every single day at or near its full hydraulic capacity. It's just gonna be going all the time. And that does that creates kind of that risk that we could pull that plume into it. So it's, we've gone through a few scenarios and again, we don't know exactly what it's gonna look like, but a few scenarios would suggest that, you know, it runs, it doesn't have any detectable PFAS in its raw water for a year or two, and then all of a sudden it starts, picking up, PFAS in its raw water, and then that follows some sort of curve as it's, you know, bringing in that PFAS, and then, you know, it goes away in time or, you know, doesn't. So those are still some unknown factors to it. So we've got to make sure it's properly built and designed to withstand not only Michigan MCLs, but the new EPA MCLs, which are on their way to us. PFAS numbers are essentially going to zero. I mean, it's where they're at.
Well, not to go too much into the weeds, but I am an engineer, so is that gonna be designed to treat? It's iron treatment, right?
What's that?
You're doing iron treatment and PFAS?
Correct.
So are you just gonna treat iron until you see the PFAS, or are you treating for both of this right off?
So it's kind of, it has to go through the iron treatment first,
And
and then it's serious. So once it goes through the iron treatment, then it's gonna go through the PFAS treatment after that.
activated charcoal?
It's
Granular.
so GAC, okay. Yeah, and then I don't know if we're far enough through our design to where we know how we're gonna operate it yet. We talked to Eagle about that. I mean, I guess the question may be, can we run it through iron treatment and then to the system until we hit PFAS and then send it into PFAS and then out? I don't know if we're to that point of design yet.
So we haven't talked about that
Okay.
operational capability.
The iron, we had to take the iron out before it goes into the PFAS, so the iron is, it's iron and manganese both. It has to be, just to use simple terms, we've got to, the water's got to be at a higher treatment standard before it goes into the PFAS or treatment, or we're just gonna blind out the PFAS treatment.
And when you're doing treatment for iron manganese, it doesn't touch the PFAS, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
So yeah, the two public meetings will be in touch, and so I don't know if we're gonna have the April UPC meeting before we start scheduling those. So I just, you know, I'll just warn everybody now that we're gonna be moving to scheduling those public hearings.
And then after the submission, is it in the fall when you learn?
So we'll find out in the late summer to fall. It's, you know, somewhere in the July to August standpoint, I believe we'll find out. We've had our experience over the last 2 to 3 DWSRF programs is that we find out and then we find out some more and then we find out again. So they'll submit a draft intended use plan, and then sometimes things change, and then they'll submit the final intended use plan. So once that intended use plan is published, that's when we all know where we were ranked, and that rank, you know, that's the first step. You've got to be within the fundable range, and then the next step, once you're in that fundable range, is, well, how much did you get?
Thank you. And then last action item is the professional services invoice approvals.
Mayor Anderson's not here, so I'll make the motion to approve the Pride and Newhoff invoice number 80100 in the amount of $388.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Abstain.
So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 yes, 1 absent and 1 abstention.
I'll make a motion to approve the invoice for Radeveld Hafner, invoice number 6278 in the amount of $1,399.65.
There's a motion by Jeff, second by Jim,
Jim's already.
second by Jim, to approve the redeveloped Hafner invoice. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 6 yeses and 1 absent. I think Peter had submitted another invoice. He's talked to me a little bit because we had a discussion at the last meeting about the timing of invoices, and he has been submitting those. It's been he's working on protocol getting them here. So there was actually a second redeveloped invoice that he submitted to the city, and I thought it might come out separately from the packet, but anyway, so he is getting them in, and so it's not on his end where we're needing to keep them current with this group. Item 8, committee member, alternate attendee guest comments. So I'll start with guests.
Oh, I thought it was a good meeting. I appreciate Jim's update on things, and I appreciate your comments about, we all need to celebrate when we're out doing water projects in and out of the city, that a lot of this is happening, as James mentioned in his interview with, I think, the media, that we have the funds. We have the funds because of this contract. It's allowed the system to grow because we have investments from both sides going into the system. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Your PFAS, it went up about double the poundage usage in the last 4 years. Is there a reason why?
What chemical are you looking at?
PFAS, or they're not PFAS?
Phosphate.
Phosphate?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's gonna go up some more. So we're, when water quality regulations started changing, for us in 2018, we started implementing, increased phosphate usage within certain districts. And then that started spreading out. So as we implemented in a few districts and we started implementing in more districts, we just awarded our large system optimization project. So we're water quality optimization with optimized corrosion control. That contract just awarded, and that's going through the system now. And you're going to see another big jump in phosphate going on. So long story short, our system used to operate at around, low ones up to maybe around 2 of total phosphate in the system. We started changing districts at a time to go up to 4.5 of total phosphate in the system. And now we're gonna be taking the steps to bring the entire whole system up to 4 milligrams per liter of phosphate, total phosphate in the system. Now, there's some more details of how much ortho, how much poly. I won't get into all that, but the system is using more phosphate, and the system's gonna continue to use more phosphate. That growth curve is gonna continue through 2024 and 2025. As far as looking at these numbers, I would say you're not gonna see things stable with our new higher usage until 2026. But if you looked at 2026 and compared it back to like 2017 or 2016, you'll see that we're more than double of where we used to be in terms of phosphate.
The cost of the chemical is going up.
But the cost is gonna more than double because we used to use a kind of like a Kool-Aid mix. It was a dry powder you mix in, you make your own Kool-Aid, so to speak. We're now buying it that is already blended and at the manufacturer. So there's human element and accuracy and precision component to making your own Kool-Aid. It's gonna be different. John's Kool-Aid is gonna be different from my Kool-Aid. And so we can't afford that variation in our process any longer. So it's coming from the manufacturer that's already pre-blended, and so all the Kool-Aid's gonna taste the same. And we pay for that. So there is additional cost for that as well.
And kudos to your boil water advisory was way down. That's a mess when that happens. The least you have of those, the better.
Yeah.
Do you use the 20 pounds is your limit?
So at anytime, so that is the state's limit. Anytime we go below 20 PSI, we're required by the state to issue a boil water advisory. A lot of these are precautionary, so we know when we work on a water main break, we're gonna have to shut valves. If you shut valves on either side, and your pressure's gonna go to zero eventually. So, you know, we issue those. A lot of these water main breaks, we've averaged over 100 water main breaks per year. A lot of these water main breaks, we don't have the ability to get a gauge to put a pressure gauge on where we're working. And so we know, hey, we're shutting valves, we're gonna take a piece of pipe out, put a piece of pipe in, or, you know, put a repair clamp on. So we're gonna go to, we're gonna go to below 20 PSI, we know that, and we issue it. You know, sometimes we know a little bit more information and, you know, we might be able to leave something on or something hot, so to speak. But having a lot of having a large number of boil water advisories is a kind of a consequence of doing all the work that we're doing. And that's something, you know, Deputy City Manager Chamberlain spoke to. You know, when we're doing all this work, there are gonna be, you know, disruptions to the customers. You see that through boil water advisories. 100 main breaks per year are gonna be boil water advisories. So there is things in the system that are happening that are kind of forcing the hand to, we've gotta do the boil water. But again, as we continue to invest in the system, the goal is that we're gonna reduce those annual main break occurrences. So I think there is certainly some light at the end of the tunnel in the future on that.
And lastly, your cross-section reports, which you're doing March 31st. Just to remind you, how many do you have to do? One for each?
We do a lot. Anna, do you even know how many cross-connection inspections we do?
I do not.
I know it's a big number.
Lot of work.
Yeah, we have an outside contractor that helps us with that.
Thank you.
I was very pleased to see the reports because we're just kind of getting new into the program. I think it'll help that we have the information to get back to our board.
I'll call you back. I apologize, that's my sister, sorry. I want to echo what Trustee Langshaw said, really impressive information. You know, I continue to be a student of water and all of the pieces that takes to really manage that much water. I'm super impressed at the delivery of information. I also want to say I'm extremely thankful for the City Council to be able to look at Ross Township independently and help meet our needs. And I know moving forward, 18 million is a huge ask. We're so thankful to have your partnership and support, and we're very thankful that individuals in Ross Township that have PFAS will have clean drinking water in the future. So thank you. Thank you to everyone.
I have no comment.
Anyone online? Raise your hand if you wish to comment. I'm not seeing any raised hands.
Well, I'd like to thank James for the reporting that he has done and Anna as well, because I know she's been instrumental in doing that. And then just a very follow-up question about the of phosphates. With respect to the pretreatment iron removals, do you anticipate that the phosphate consumption chemicals would go down or not?
I don't think so. We have 13 point of entry stations. We currently have iron removal on 2 of them. When we bring station 1, 4, 5 together, it's gonna reduce one of our stations, so we'll be down to 12 total POEs, but to one more iron station. So we still have a lot of stations that don't have that. And then the big component of that total phosphate is the orthophosphate, and the orthophosphate is for the lead protection.
Got it. Thank you. I'm good, thanks.
It's all set.
Just in terms of, you talked about getting information out there to people, about flushing, about breaks in the system, so I encourage that, because as an example of getting good information out there, thank the city for the, flyers that were sent out about the construction in town, which is highly impactful to some people who have to go from one point to another with Southwestnedge and White's and Bronson Boulevard. So that was really nice to be able to figure that out before you got stuck in the traffic, as opposed to just forgetting about it and getting stuck in the traffic, so.
James, any? I don't have anything. Thank you for all the information this morning, and the next meeting is then April 11th. And we are adjourned.
Right.
I knew about it, and I was like, I had it all figured out. One day it was a parade.
I'm gonna get these two extra.